let's go back to before all this happens. You're 44 years old. You had a criminal history years before, but at this point, you're on your feet. You're owning a barber shop. You're doing some really good things. Your life is good. You've served your time. You've paid your dues. You're doing great. So just tell me a little bit before this actually happens, where you were in your life at 44 years old, back in 2009.
Okay. Well, real quick, I would like to first thank you and Cyrus for allowing me this opportunity to come before y'all and this audience to explain my situation. And I commend you for the work that you're doing, out here. With that being said, yes, as a young man growing up, I took to the streets. I was one of those prodigal childs. My brother, he went in the service, he did 25 years, and I went down that wrong path. In the course of that, I served my time, I did my time. And in doing that, I went to college, and I learned to trade, as far as cutting hair. When I got out, I felt the need to get back to the community. And so I opened up a barbershop. And during the course of opening up a barbershop, I tried to reach back to those individuals who was coming home, who also pick up the trade to help them get a job, and working their way back into society. In the course of all of this, I had gotten married, nice house, my children, one day, let me say this here. My son wound up, he wound up running the streets, and being protective of my son, I try to keep him close to me and pulled him into the barbershop as well. And so during this time period, a case jumped off. It was a home invasion robbery. And it's a young gentleman, he gets locked up. He's, I think, in his early 20s. And they robbed his house. And it was 3 victims in the house, 3 females. And they said it was 3 individuals that came in the house to do this home invasion. And so during the course of this, one of the females stated that the third person who got away was a young individual around 20, early 20s, 21, 22. At the time, as you stated, I was 44 years old. And so they gave a full description of this individual. And lo and behold, I was arrested. When I was arrested, all 3 of the victims stated they couldn't identify me. They said, no, it ain't him. But yet, the police went through great length to wind up charging me with this crime. And I wind up doing 11 and a half years for this crime.
And what's interesting is that this happens January of 2009 in Philadelphia.
Yes.
At the time, you have a clear alibi. You're in a gospel play. You're in a gospel play. Police across town. There's no way that you could have committed this crime. You aren't arrested until December of 2009. You're arrested, I guess 10 months later. So when you find out that you're a suspect, when you find out that your name is even in this, what are you thinking? First, how do you find out? And then what happens when you're arrested?
All right. Well, as you stated, I was, it's funny because I was in a full-fledged gospel play, viewing, people all over. They see my face is on all types of billboards, the whole thing. And
Mr. Loach, the play was called "Clean Up Your Own Mess."
That's
what the play was called.
Isn't
that crazy? So go ahead. I'm sorry.
It was a church play, "Clean Up Your Own Mess."
Yeah.
And to top it off, I was the lead character in it.
Wow.
And so it was a crazy situation. I wound up learning about my arrest. They just came and got me one day and took me to the police station. And I kind of knew something was wrong when they was referring me as my son, you know, and you know, I knew they had it wrong, but I knew that the police officers at the time, you know, like they don't look at the actual evidence; they just look at your background, you know. And at the time, something that, you know, a lot of people overlook is that we even had Seth Williams. He was the head DA at the time, someone who wound up being corrupt, you know. And you would have thought that by us electing, you know, our first Black DA in the city, that, you know, like real justice will be coming through the city. Instead, we only find that in Larry Craster. You know how
Right.
ironic.
Not all my skin. And also, as far as, let's not forget the insidious Roger King.
Roger King, Lynn
I know
Abraham.
he was gone before this happens to you, but Roger King was a Black
Exactly.
man who was willfully
Exactly.
locking up other Black men. I would say
Exactly.
wrongfully, allegedly.
And
Go
you
ahead.
know, it goes towards that saying, you know, I mean, it's sad, but it's true. Every skinfolk ain't your kinfolk. You know, it's a well-known saying, you know, and it's sad, you know, because, you know, we try to put people in position that look like us, but sometimes that don't always work out, you know, as we would want. And sometimes we just got to go on people's character. Okay. And so I was arrested. And during the course of my arrest and everything, the only person that identified me was the guy who was facing deportation out of the country. You know, he was facing deportation. And in order for him to stop from being deported, you know, he gave my name up. Well, he thought it was my name. And so they arrested me. But where they went wrong at is that his statement conflicted with the witness's statement and what they said. And the question should always be, who is you going to believe? Is you going to believe the victims, or are you going to believe a corrupt criminal? But
Mr. Lowe,
yet,
did you even know these people? Did you even know them?
no. I knew the inmate because, as I stated, he worked it in my barbershop. Okay, so I knew him and I was familiar with him, but I did not know the victims or none of that, you know.
The guy who was going to be deported, that's the one who you knew, and so he threw your name out there.
Exactly. You know, and here's the funny part, you know, that I think that, you know, Pennsylvania should actually look at some of the laws that they have, you know, dealing with statements, because he gave a statement, you know, and saying my name to the police. But then before he even testified, before he even got on the stand, he told them, no, I lied. This man didn't have nothing to do with it. He then came to my trial and told them repeatedly, I lied because I was trying to get a better deal. The only, no physical evidence, no nothing tied me to this case. You know, the only thing tied me to this case was a statement that he made prior to coming to court. And that's what convicted me. And the thing about it all was that the jury, during their deliberation, get this, found me not guilty of all charges except for the one. And the one charge that they found me guilty of was a conspiracy charge because of the corrupt police officers. And putting all that paperwork together, you know, they came up with some fictitious, fraudulent phone records, you know, that never existed. And this is what the judge seen it. The judge seen through it. And I try to tell lawyers, I say, man, this is not right, man. Like, this is wrong. You know, they said, nah, these is phone records. These is phone records. And I said, man, these is not phone records. And they went on, and I went through, I'm talking about some of the best lawyers in the city. And they said, Jerome, these is phone records. I said, man, they not phone records. And finally, the phone company got in contact with me and said, Mr. Loach, they're not phone records. They're not our records.
So those police officers made up those phone records to get you behind bars.
They made up the
God.
phone records, said that there was 25 phone calls being made, said that there was a text that I was texting the guy. Come to find out the phone didn't even have text capability.
Good God.
You know, all of this wound up coming out. And if it wasn't for, you know, I was just spinning my wheels and paying money. I lost everything. I lost my house. Me and my wife, we broke up for a minute. You know, like I lost everything. And it took one man, Michael Pileggi, who came in, heard my plea, and said he was going to help me.
Let me ask you this.
Yes.
Do you know why did that inmate, even the one who was in threat of being deported, do you know why he threw your name out there? Was he just thinking of anybody's name? Why did he throw your name out there?
I think that he threw my name out, number one, because, hello?
It's so vicious. It's so cruel.
Yes. Well, when he got locked up, okay, he had sent his fiancée to the barbershop and asked, could I pay his bail to get him out before he be deported? And I said, no, I'm not getting involved in no, you know, you did a crime, now you got to face up to that. No, I'm not going to help you. And I think because I turned him down and people look and they say, oh man, you know, like, you know, he come to you, you know, give him some help. No, I gave you help when I gave you a job, you know, do right. And, you know, because of that, you know, I told him, hey, I sent you a couple of dollars, you know, like, hey, I'm sorry about your situation, but no, I'm not going to do it. And so a year later, you know, he used my name. And I think that it was a good name because the police and them jumped on it.
Because you had record, so they were able to, even though you did your time.
I was that perfect candidate, you know. And here's the funny part. Now, here's the funny part. The detective looked into the case. He closed this case, guess what? 2 times. He closed it, opened it up, closed it, opened it up, and closed it. Ain't that funny? And then the 3rd time he opened it back up, and all of a sudden he got all this evidence.
Wow.
You know, and I said, wow, is you kidding me? I mean, like, it was days that I would sit in my cell and ball up and cry like a baby. You know, because I couldn't believe. I said, I know my life ain't gonna end like this. Like, it can't. Like, the Lord ain't through with me. The Lord ain't through with me yet. I can't see this. You know, and I fought tooth and nail. And even while I was on there, I still helped brothers do petitions, because I know a little legal work. Help brothers, you know, file their petitions and things of that nature. And even though I was mad at every brother that was in there, because I said, y'all some rotten dudes, man. You know, like, y'all can set another brother up, you know, just to try to get out. You know, like, what part of the game is this? You know,
So,
but
I just want to make sure folks understand this. So even though you were in a play that night, on stage, the star of the play, you were ultimately convicted. You were sentenced to 25 to 50 years because of corrupt police officers who basically made up some text messages and said you were a part of this crime. That's ultimately why the jury convicted you. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. Not only did they made up the text messages, but they made up 25 phone calls. 25 phone calls. And when I say look at AT&T phone records, look at the Sprint phone records, none of these phone calls existed. See, it wasn't just about the text message. The text message was one thing, but then what they did was they used 25 calls to say, and now listen to this, because you seem like a bright man, and this is a good show, but ask yourself, text message and 25 calls. Did you ever think for a minute while you asking me these questions, why is I'm texting you and calling you 25 times if I'm right there in the car, excuse my language, if I'm right there in the house?
That's what I'm saying. I want to be clear. They're still saying that you were there. Yeah, they're saying that you were there. So why are you texting and calling when you're right there in the middle of a crime?
I'm right there in the middle of the crime. That's
wait.
That's crazy.
Is the jury black, white? How did the jury fall for this though?
The jury was a mixed jury, and I think that they didn't fall for it, but I think that, because they, and I give the jury, the jury, they only go on with, what's put before them, and I don't fault them. I fault the polices, and those, higher ups, that move forward with this evidence. But the jury, they found me not guilty, and I give them that. They found me not guilty of robbery. They found me not guilty of burglary. They found me not guilty of carrying no guns. They found me not guilty of all that. The only thing they found me guilty of was conspiracy. The conspiracy dealt with the phone record. So when they say, well, they had to wait. And then when you take a piece of paper and wave it in front of them and say, here it is right here, these the phone call, then they look and they say, well, there's the phone calls. And then when the jury asked for the phone records, they actually asked for the phone records. And you know what the DA and them said? We don't have them. Now, ain't that some crap? Instead of giving them the phone records that they asked for, they gave them the police report. Hear what I said now? The police report. Not the phone records. They gave them what the police said, how many phone calls it was, any text to phone. I couldn't believe it. So how can I be there? I'm standing in front of you and we robbing these people and I'm calling you, standing in front of you saying, hey man, what you doing? Hold on, let me text you. Let me text you while you standing in front of me. Come on, you serious? You serious?
So let me ask you, you're convicted May 27th, 2011. You are behind bars. Like you said, you've been candid about your past. You paid your dues. Going back behind bars, being wrongfully convicted, what was your lowest moment?
One of my deepest, lowest moments was when I was rushed to the hospital, around 10 o'clock at night. I'm basically confined in a single cell, dealing with post-traumatic stress and things of this nature. So I got to be by myself in a single cell, and I fell out, and I was out. And if it wasn't for the grace of a guard coming and doing a round, they had to rush me to an outside hospital. And I stayed there for a couple of days because my blood pressure and everything just went to the roof. And I had to stay there for a few days. Everybody thought I was dead, but the Lord wasn't done with me yet. Another low moment in my life was when I started, working in the barbershop again, cutting staff hair, inmates hair, things of that nature. If I took 100 feet, if I walked 100 feet, I would fall out and pass out. And nurses, it was sad, but nurses used to think that I would do that because I wanted to come see a nurse. Like, is you tripping? Come to find out, they rushed me to the hospital. I wound up staying in the hospital again for this time about like almost 3 weeks. I learned that I have a severe case of anemia, and red blood cells will stop. I can't produce no red blood cells now, which gives me oxygen to my brain. And so from that, I got to take this medication for the rest of my life, in order for me to, survive. Outside of that, I lost my niece, my nephew, family members. Me and my wife went through a tumultuous, hard time, and not even, the material things that I lost, but, it was a trying time. And sometimes, I thought about just wanting to end it all, but, I had the will to be strong because I still had my mother to come home to, and my mother, she's a senior lady. And that what gave me the strength, along with my family members, brothers, sisters, wife, you know, um, that made me want to get out and fight hard.
And you were finally released June 24th, 2021. So it's only been a few months. Your
Yes,
sentence was vacated though July
yes,
24th, 2020.
yes,
Correct?
yes,
You had to,
yes.
you still, even with the sentence vacated, you're not released until
No,
June 2020. That's how
exactly.
crazy the system is. How have you been? How have you been these past 3 or 4 months?
Well, it's been hard. I have put together, well, my family and us has put together a GoFundMe, to try to help me get, my barbershop back open. The only thing I have from that whole ordeal is a piece of property. And so I want to start that. Mr. Pelegi has invited me in his law firm, to help me, you know, try to, make some type of living, but I like my own independence as I was, I want to get back to some form of giving back. Since I've been home, I've been involved in helping get Larry Krasner reelected because I feel as though he's the best thing to happen in the city. I also did a program with Stop the Asian Violence. I've been kind of pretty active, in trying to, stop the violence and things of that nature, you know. But, as far as moving forward, I need help, I need help. And, I'm trying to get the word out, to other, people that's in situations like me. Don't give up.
We have to head out, but I do want to say this. The state of Pennsylvania has not compensated you, which is disgusting to me. We don't know when that's going to happen, if that's going to happen. I'm sure you're fighting for that. But in the meantime, people can donate to your Cash App, which is $ Jerome's Exoneration Rebuilding Fund. That's $ Jerome's Exoneration Rebuilding Fund. And we'll put that in the video as well. We'll put that on social media. And we'll also make sure we post your GoFundMe page. I want to thank you so much for sharing your story. It really, it's a powerful story. It's a sad story. And I just hope that you can truly rebuild. And I hope that eventually Pennsylvania, the state, compensates you for basically putting you in bondage because of corruption. It's just sad. Mr. Loach, how can folks follow you and support you?
They can follow and support me by going to right there to the GoFundMe